series back in the early 90s, and it was interesting going to their shop, and they had, I think, 7 dot matrix printers still running. This was like 3 years ago. I took pictures of it. It was amazing. They had, the 13 pin connectors running everything, and it was impressive.
Must have been a government contract. In this episode of The Dorks, we interview Zach Piercy of Poynter Sheet Metal, the current SMACNA Innovator of the Year, about how technology and innovation are solving problems for the sheet metal trade, and how it's often better to dig into the existing solutions before you start looking for new ones. It was a great conversation, so sit back and enjoy the episode.
And we're live. Episode 67, more innovative than duct tape. That's right. We're continuing our series with the MEP Innovation winners. We didn't forget about you, SMACNA. Zach Piercy is the tin knocker of the Innovator of the Year, is what we're just going to drop right now. He's here with us for the show. You guys are tuning in for an awesome episode. We had our country's birthday a day or two ago, whatever it is. I'm on like a week of rest. This is the only time I'm in front of the microphone after what seems like way too much time in front of the microphone. And I'm joined by the fantastic boys. Trent, welcome back to the show. 75 days is over.
It's done.
It's done. So I'm let me guess. It's something hoppy.
Oh, you know it, man. Just for Travis, I had to. I got a local brew here. It's a hazy IPA called the Wicked Possum,
and it smells like
got a nice little dog on the front. It's thick. I mean, it looks like you're just.
Every time you introduced your beer, I remember the old, I think it was Busch Light commercials with the guy that had the bitter beer face with that. Scrunched up.
It's so good. It's like eating a warhead, like the old sour. It's my flavor. I figured Travis would like that. But yeah, back to got a little moment here where I can enjoy some brews. I think I'm going to, here in another month or so, do another 30-day stint of doing away with it. But yeah, so between now and then, though, here we go.
That's nice. I should have said I'm on the Celsius vibe. I'm taking over for you I'm in the training circuit. So I got Celsius, a little tropical vibe. That should get me all hopped up for the rest of the show. Jonathan Marsh, what do you got, man?
I am doing Lagavulin 11, and it is the Oberman edition of Lagavulin from Parks and Rec. And it's actually a really, really good scotch, man. But I had a scotchy day. I could use some scotch. Scotchy day for sure.
Scotch.
Travis, what you got?
Well, I went, as typical, I went the opposite way from Trent there. I got a pharmacy porter. This is actually out of Nashville, Tennessee. It's something new too that I've never seen before. Of these pharmacy, like they tell you where the hops and grains and everything come from. That's kind of cool. But nice, thick, rich, German-inspired porter. Nice and deep. I'm going to go ahead and take the honor of kicking it over to Zach and take the opportunity here. If you have not heard, I do have a new position as the Director of Innovation and Fabrication for SMACNA. So Zach and I are going to be working very closely together. So Zach, why don't you introduce yourself and what you got to drink?
Yeah, Zach Piercy. I work for Poynter. We're located in Indiana, and I think it's an Indiana thing. I'm also drinking an IPA. I did pour it into a glass like a civilized human, though.
Wow! Shots fired right off the bat.
It is
Have some class.
Center Point Blood Orange. I like to show them off. So these guys are actually engineers who are putting their engineers' degrees to use in making beer. So they're pretty successful around here. So it's delicious beers.
Right on.
Typical engineer with the center point and not using any robotic technology.
Can you go ahead and introduce a little bit more about what you do? And I mean, for those of us here in the area, especially like Trent, we're very aware of who Poynter is. Can you give a little background on Poynter as well?
Yeah, we're kind of unique. We're a straight line sheet metal contractor, so no piping, just duct only. We are actually last year from ENR, we were the number 3 ranked sheet metal contractor in the country, which is kind of unique being from Indiana. There's not a lot of high rises going on. Although right now we do have a ton of tower cranes up, but we kind of cover the Indiana, Kentucky, and partial, I'd say, Southwest section of Ohio. And we do chase clients around. So we are in the automotive industry. So we have, select clients. I've personally done projects in Dallas, Texas. We've done them in Alabama. We've got them all over. And right now we're in Kentucky on a particular battery facility with, I think, over 200 people on site right now. So pretty large contractor. We set a huge goal last week. We did 356,000 pounds of metal in 1 week. So we pump out the ductwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Small
incredible.
volumes.
That's insane. If any of the sheet metal people out there that understand that number you can get back in your chair now. That's a lot of work. It's a lot of tin.
It helps us. One of our big things is tracking, metrics, and that's one of our huge metrics of seeing, how much is going out the shop. That along with, how many semis we're shipping out, and so it's, we're full gangbusters right now for sure.
With that level of volume coming through your shop, are you having material issues, or are you the biggest boy out there, so they make sure that you're happy?
It's a little bit of both. We actually, we compete with some of the automotive players too. We're buying the metal from the same facility. So we've never really, had a shortage on flat metal. I know, Doug spoke about, flex and that type of thing. We have those same issues. We got lucky when we had the real big shortage. We saw the price jump coming and we went ahead and pre-purchased a bunch right ahead. But every day we have metal deliveries every day. We're very similar to DSI. We like to let our vendors store our material for us. So they do a pretty good job of that. So and they take care of us. So that's the way we utilize it.
Right on. So you kind of won Innovator of the Year. Were you expecting it?
I was not. I was 0% expecting it. I was very shocked when it happened. And I honestly, between the 3 of us, between Doug and Todd and I am by far the 3rd place of those 3. Those are 2 fantastic people. And I actually have a great story about Doug. So when I graduated college, I actually lived in Alaska for 4 years. My wife was in the Air Force. I worked at a sheet metal shop up there, named Alaska Sheet Metal of all things. But back in the TSI days, we had just bought it, and I think I was like 24 at the time. And my boss was like, "Hey, we bought the software. They got a conference in Vegas." I'm like, "Okay, sign me up. I'll go." And Doug actually helped show me the ropes a little bit. He kind of, I saw he was, one speaking a lot, and he doesn't remember it all. He actually took me to dinner. It was pretty interesting. I mean, that just shows, what kind of guy he is, and he grabs people and takes them under their wings, and he did a great job. And I just kind of slowly, I've changed different roles, through the process. But now my main focus, I'm not really on the BIM VDC side. I'm more into the what can we make to get our guys in the field stuff that helps them get their job done. Our president always talks about what is our job, and in our industry we are mostly plan and spec, low dollar. So our job is to take that flat metal, get it up in the air, as few steps as possible. Don't get cute with it. How does it go in efficiently? So that's my focus, right? Is getting stuff to our guys that helps them speed up the process.
Building the better mousetrap, man. That's like one of the fun, like when I first went from engineering to contracting, I came in and this guy, Steve Eastbourne, and this other guy, Steve Spader, they're talking about how to lift these bathtubs units into a high rise. And the entire thing was like 2 hours of them throwing out ideas that I thought were terrible, like just terrible. But like towards the end, they started getting better and better and better. And they ended up with something that was like truly innovative, like because they realized they wanted to do 6 at a time. They only had a couple hours. They wanted to be able to move them through the doors once they got there. And it was really fun. I actually of the things that attracted me to the industry, that idea of the better mousetrap, the better way to do it, and sort of doing it in a hacktastic way, where it's like, you know what we got? We have extra duck jacks, and then we also have these other things over here, tie them together. So like, are they bringing you the problems, or are you going out there and saying, how do we do it better? Or do you have like a foreman list?
It's honestly, what I like to do, it all started, I always use this one process that we did. So we check in equipment. We try not to ship it to our shop, but we do. And it has to happen sometimes. And especially right now, we don't know lead time. So we will just order stuff and say, you know what, get it here. It's kind of lightening up a little bit. But our old process was, you know, we'd receive a delivery. And then the receiving would take that packing slip. They would write it on a log, take the packing slip, file it away, keep that running log going. And then every single week, he would rewrite that log, hand deliver it to the receptionist. She would scan it. She would email it to PMs. If PMs felt nice, you know, they would get it to the field people who needed it. And it was like, okay, there's probably about 10 steps in this whole process we can get rid of real quick. In my world, the biggest thing I use, we like to use the tools we already have, and Microsoft has an extensive platform that I think is way underutilized. They don't sell it enough. They look at the big picture, the big boys. But they have a great product. We use Power Apps and SharePoint mostly, and I created a simple app. Now the guy can take it on his phone, take a picture of the slip, enters in a couple pieces of information, and it just goes to the foreman. The foreman gets notified that day now. So sometimes it was 2 weeks if the PM passed that information along. But there's just small processes like that. I like to go around asking people, what do you think could be easier? What drives you nuts? You know, what are these little things that we can take away? And that's how it started. But now I've got people all the time, you know, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? You know, so it's trying to pick and choose some of those things at a time. Someone asked me the other day, do you guys have any coders that work here? And I said, none official. I'd say there's me and probably about 4 other people in our office, you know, working in different disciplines. We're YouTube coders. You know, go on the YouTube, you know, just type in your problem and find it.
Zach, man, I think that's great, because like I've noticed if they're pure coders, they go to code first, where we'll go and find, like, I have this app called Sync Toy, and I used it for everything because it just moves files around and I can use some filters, and they're writing all these scripts to do what I'm like, all of that can be done with this tool that I don't even have to know how to code to do.
Yeah.
By the way,
you mentioned something even better though in that, John. Like, yeah, okay, so automate, but what's better than automate? Eliminate. I mean, he's looking at the eliminate first, right? And that's what a lot of people aren't doing. Yeah. Sometimes you get that coding mentality across, and it's like, I'm going to find a way to automate all these things. But step one is like, well, can we eliminate it? I mean, why would I want to automate something that's completely unneeded or redundant? I think
are we still paying James Benham if we use them? It's you can efficiently suck. I mean, if it sucks, the process sucks and you automate it, you just get to suck faster. I like that though. You're right, Jonathan. The non-coders, and Zach, I'm the same. Like, if I'm going to code anything, I'm going to go steal it and then look at the variables and change them to make it do what I need it to do. And isn't that how all code is written anyway?
Yes,
pretty much.
My years as a coder, it was exactly that.
No sense in doing it twice.
No,
and I was think, John, kind of the similar to what you were saying, like what drew you to the industry, and I think this is even just another point of the innovation that Zach and them are showing is like, we're always looking for ways to do something better, and he's sitting there talking about, well, I'm gonna try to make the guys in the field better and find a way to make their life easier. And the same thing we complain about to the general contractors a lot in the MEP world is like, they're going to sit there and when we're not performing, they're going to point to the means and methods, right? How many times do you have to hear it? Well, it's your means and methods. I don't care how you get it done, whatever, but the people that are good innovators can use, those are my means and methods. And you can use that to your advantage, because it's like, well, my means and methods are going to be better than even what my competitors were going to do. And I mean, so you're taking that age-old argument. It's something that most MEP guys are looking at as a negative that they get to hear, but it's actually like kind of like an ace in your sleeve almost.
Yeah. Another big thing that we do is we like to share information. We're not one of those shops that, the field doesn't know their hours. They don't know those things. And so we're a part of a peer group. We have contractors all over. Actually, we got a new one. Augusta Gills just joined our group, so I've been there.
Another tiny awesome outfit.
I cannot wait.
Tiny.
I cannot wait to to get into Kevin's head some more and pick some more stuff out of him. That's the great thing about the peer group is we're all there to share information, and we've in our world we're playing spec, we're efficiency, but sometimes we do have jobs where we got to put proposals together. And we have a great company in Hermanson and Western Allied out on the West Coast, and all they do is design build. They have great proposal writing processes. And, they kind of help us do that. So that's what it's all designed for. So, but we've taken things, it's what's the information that everyone else has that someone would probably benefit from. Probably one of the first things we did was, we implemented a tracking process through that peer group. Everyone wanted to see, hey, how are you guys tracking? And this was maybe 8 years ago when that whole process started, and everyone wanted to know. And we don't like to be exposed, so it's like figure something out. And so we started slowly developing a process to report it. Now we have it down to I can tell you, I think last week we had 86 different projects that reported tracking field lineal footage of ducts, grills, the important things, the things that the guys in the field understand. It's not pounds. They don't know how many pounds they installed. They do know how many feet they installed. So what we did is we took the old school. You go to any print table, on any job site, especially on the duct, they're going to have them highlighted up. What's installed, what's missing. They have a master set. And Bluebeam was huge at the time, and I was, really diving into all the, the metadata behind it, creating toolboxes to make it easier for them. So it's like use this tool over and over again. Now we have a process that, they all understand how it works. They highlight it up. We have a batch process that goes out and grabs all that information, brings it back in, drops it in Power BI, and they get reports. Hours get reported on Monday. They have reports on Wednesday showing their productivity, what their goal was, how they're doing now. And then on the flip side, I did all this when I was a PM. So I can tell you to a 0.1%, what we're at, for rough end completion. Makes billing a lot easier. You know where you're at exactly. And you can see, hotspots. It's literally on the drawing. Why are we missing this section? Oh, drywall has they loaded up this section of the building. Okay, now I have some ammo. I can go to the GC and say, I'm not done over here because you have all this, stacked up, and I can kind of back it up.
Yeah, man, people underestimate how valuable it is to have a visual on things, especially when it's a mapped visual. Like you show somebody a heat map and there's a problem, everybody knows. There's not this big conversation about whether it's right or not. It's like, oh, right there we have, so-and-so's not working. Yeah. So I have to add this because you mentioned Microsoft. Did you know that in Excel, there is a little button under data that will take photos and turn them into Excel cells and everything? So you can actually, like with Excel, just import photos straight to Excel. And I was like, I don't know that anybody knows that, because I was watching some guy try to code stuff to do that. I'm like, it's a button, right? Like there's a button in there.
Because no one should do that, Jonathan. Well, but
That's right.
Here's the reason is that
just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Oh no, you have to. You have to use all the technology. That's how we
corrupt.
No,
you
must. It has to be done.
Unless you're generating the heat map and something that's missing and showing a picture of it, so you can just quick send it to somebody for proof. No. All right. And I thought you were going to ask an educated Microsoft question. That is just
Fabric just came out. I don't know if you've checked that out yet, Zach, but they grouped all their data stuff together. They call it Fabric, and they're giving you a free license of it. So if you go into your Microsoft 360 account, 365 account, you can turn on Fabric, and that's going to be their new, how do we group AI with our BI, with all of that? They're going to try to do it all in that platform.
I have to look into that. I'm looking at Dataverse right now because we're getting into,
yeah.
We have an app for POs, right? It's just you pull it up, you write your PO, sends the email out to everyone, actually copies AR or AP, so they actually know it gets put in. Just the little things. But we're starting to hit some data limits. We've written 25,000 POs, I think, in the last 3 years. So we're having to get out of the SharePoint side, and we're starting to look into Dataverse and some other options. But yeah, there's definitely, you can kind of sit back and watch Microsoft. They start to pick a platform to go with, and that whole Power Platform, the Dataverse is going to be kind of the backbone of everything. But there's got a lot of new products that's there that's going to stick.
I was going to say, have you looked at any of like the Copilot or anything they're doing?
I started to. So to use all that stuff, you've got to get it into their data model. So
yeah,
they're kind of pushing it away from the SQL servers, and they don't like what people like I do. You know, hey, here's an Excel. That was the first one. I learned that probably not the best one, so we kind of shifted to SharePoint. Now we're kind of maximizing the limits of that. So yeah, now we're ready to take the next step and go.
So are you? I mean, you're entirely self-taught through all this, the whole Power Platform, the flow, and because I'll tell you right now, with my background, I come from the coding side. I was constantly frustrated by it because it didn't do things the way that I wanted to do so you know, with my last job, we would hire somebody that was more versed in it, because I'm like, the stupid text box is not behaving the way I want a text box to behave. And so I mean, you just dug into that then, huh?
100% YouTube taught. I went to school. I went to Purdue for construction management. I learned I was supposed to be, get shipped off to a GC and go sit in a job trailer and push through submittals. And then I had this opportunity, actually I graduated in 2009 and moved into Alaska. The economy crashed, and it hadn't hit up there yet, but everyone just kind of threw the brakes on. And I had a military address, and I literally had someone say, hey, we kind of like you, but you have a military address. We don't know how long you're going to be here. And I was like, I'm at least going to be here for 4 years. You should probably give it a shot. But it all worked out. I kind of found a great industry to be in, and came back. But yeah, it's literally YouTube. There's some great people out there. I've been to one SharePoint conference. They hold it in Vegas. It's actually, I was there for like 8 days, and as sad as it sounds, that's way too long to be in Vegas.
I was gonna say that's too much Vegas. My limit at Vegas is about 4.
That's way too long to be in anything SharePoint, I think.
Did you say 4 hours, Travis?
That's your limit.
I'm like 4 or 5 hours. I'm out.
I just 4 days can feel like 4 hours and 4 weeks all at the same time.
Yeah. I went in there just a novice. I kind of knew a little bit about it, and it was this. We don't utilize. You talked about the mousetrap. I think in the construction industry, it's a mousetrap in the New York City sewer system. There's so many things that we can do, just small things to improve, and that's all. It's all you can do is make people's lives better. That's always goal number one. We're building an app. We want to make someone's lives better, and we want to make our process easier. So I was in there. I was just soaking up things. They had medical companies that are building, apps to check in customers, and they're encrypting it because of, all the, data breaches and everything like that. They're doing super high level stuff. And I'm like, I want to make my receiving guy be able to take a picture on his phone and log it, essentially. So, my bar's really low. There's a lot of room for improvement there. And then I just soaked up as much as I could. But there's a couple of YouTubers out there. I will mention there's one in particular. He does a great job. His name's Shane Young. He's out of Cincinnati, Ohio. He has a company called Power Apps 911. If he ever wants to give me free stuff, that'd be great, because he's taught me everything I know. I've spent many of hours. The problem is I'll start watching videos, and it'll be 1 o'clock, and I'm sitting here on the couch, and I'm literally watching videos on Power Apps at 1 a.m. on a Wednesday, on my couch. But he does a great job of showing you all the steps and processes to go through it.
It's a great part about being right now is anything you want to learn about, there's going to be somebody out there that will teach you for free.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, do you have the time? And I don't know how you can do that at night, man. When I do anything like that at night, it means I'm not going to sleep. So
that's the problem, is it gets the wheels going, and then you start thinking of stuff, and usually the next day people, they know at work now. They're like, you were up watching videos last night, weren't you? Like, yeah, I'm already thinking about stuff, how to change things, but it's kind of limitless, and we're a big proponent of grab those softwares and systems that are going to be around. For us, it's Autodesk, it's Microsoft. Those places aren't going to go away. So we really go full in on those companies for sure.
I think that that's something that I've spoken about more and more when I do presentations and whatnot, is the fact that we're more and more companies, we're starting to try to get deeper into the softwares, the platforms that we own. I think we used to talk a lot about, like, you would buy something and you'd probably only use maybe 40% of everything it offered. So and with the explosion in construction technology over the years, everybody was ready to jump to whatever that point solution was. So it doesn't feel as innovative to say that you're digging more into Microsoft stuff, but it really is.
It's more profitable for sure.
That's right.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's something we're already paying for. I'd say we may be scratching 5%. There's tons and tons of things. We're not even on the Azure side, which I know there's companies out there that one of our peer companies have looked at switching over to using Dynamics, to do their full accounting and everything, all their whole EPR. It's like, holy cow.
We tried that.
If you could get it to work, that would be so amazing to be able, because the software we use, it's all crystal reports. And it's like, you have to pull an arm and a leg and, figure out how to do stuff from way back in the time. And it's like, if I could have this data in Power BI, I could make incredible things that would, show items immediately. So
they used to have one called Navi.
Crystal reports.
Yeah.
Ouch. That was Zach, you brought back like a flashback. That was my intro 10 years ago. I came into the industry and I came from going to conferences like you're talking about on a Microsoft DevOps team that was doing, our big thing was moving from SQL to Azure SQL, which has a lot of different rules and had a lot of different rules. And I came in and they're like, yeah, we have this database that does this thing for accounting. And I'm like, all right, we have reports on it. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll go in and, oh my God, crystal reports. No, I'm out. We kept the 40-year job cost accountant guy around for like 2 years to do that. Interesting. There was a company, I remember this, like, again, in those days, that came in and they were selling us, it was basically a wrapper on top of Dynamics. And I always wondered why the hell Microsoft Dynamics didn't make it in our world, because it runs so many different, verticals from an ERP perspective.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
They used to have one called Navi. Navi was the attempt to get contractors to use Microsoft Dynamics. When I was at Spader, we had a guy come in from Kiewit. All right. And he had the same mentality you did, Zach, which I agree with. He's like, I'm going to pick the biggest, baddest dog and we're going to back that dog because we know it ain't going away. And the only problem was you really needed somebody that's on it because so much of it still need developed. And I think where you're like winning, like the biggest, and this is kind of a question, definitely a question for you, is my struggle is like when I watch the ERPs and then I watch their speed of performance, there's a line there. Like I've had some ERPs that they're like, oh, we're going to use that to distribute PDFs to the field. And I'm like, between sign in, download, upload, you've wasted, like, you think it's not costing you a lot of money. It's costing you huge amounts of money. So with your job, with kind of dealing with the solutions, how do you have a peer group, obviously, but like, how do you figure out, is it going fast enough? Like, you provided a solution and there's other ones out there, but how do you grade that against other solutions?
So it's always hard. It's really that end user feedback. I know whenever I used to take it to heart when I put the first items out and they'd say, oh, this is dumb or whatever. And I'm like, seriously, why don't you give it a try? Let's see it. But what that is it's just, it's criticism to help make it better. There's just tiny little things that you can do to make things a little bit easier. We have our bid board. So we used to use this third-party software that would track everything and quote numbers and all that. It's all internal now. All the estimating team that I lead, we just, pull a new quote number, it spits it out. And there's just little things like, this takes forever to go find my bid. Can you put a search bar in there? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Sure. It's at the time, it wasn't a world that I lived in, but it's like, I never thought of that because I'm not in those shoes. I look at things holistically, and to me, it's pretty easy to move around. But for you that wants to look at this one item, having that search bar is huge. So it's always that feedback. And honestly, whenever I've rolled stuff out, I grab a high end user. So typically someone in, their mid to late 20s, a foreman that's up and coming, maybe running some bigger work. And then I'll grab some of our more veteran people that like to complain about technology. And it's a great balance. And always the one, it's 100% of the time, it's the older one that I thought was going to hate it, ends up loving it and giving the best feedback and telling you exactly what to do. It's very simple for them. And then they actually, end up using it more and help spreading the information and help train those other foremen too. So that's always the best thing to use to roll those things out.
Oh, dude, if you could do a class on how to find that person, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, Zach, do you think that's like a product of the time that you've spent there and the work that you've done? So they, you mentioned this earlier, like in the beginning, you had to be like, knock, knock, who's got a problem? Knock, knock, who's got a problem? Now it's like, they're all coming to you. Is that representative of that? Or could you teach a course on how to find that person?
I think everyone knows that person. And what's good about, I worked at a shop. I've only worked at 2 sheet metal shops in my life. One was smaller, and Evan at Poynter is a little bit bigger. But those people. There's those people that are going, I'm not going to use that. And it's typically one of your best foremen or one of your better people, and you kind of let them slide because they're so good at what they do. And then you say, hey, guess what? You're going to use this. And the other big thing is having that backup from above. I've always had that support. Is this is what's going to happen, and when Zach develops something, you're going to work with them, and it's there to make your job better, and it's how things are going to be. And that's a huge part of it too. But
that's such a huge culture thing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
But you're winning because like those same people, your best foreman, your best supers, they're the ones getting the most work done. So if you're taking a bunch of crap away from them, they're the first ones to be like, okay,
exactly. Yep.
Great.
Yep. They're the biggest, they do not want to do it. And then they're the first ones to say, this is great. I'm going to do it all the time. And if you're not using it, you're crazy.
I wonder if you
the
got a
perfect
story.
target.
Yeah.
Those
I wonder if
guys.
you got a story about like, cause the one thing I noticed is it's usually like we give them something and it's got like 8 or 9 clicks in it. And they're like, I'm done. And you're like, okay, wait. Because if you can get it to where it's 2-3 clicks, whatever, they're ready.
That's it. So I try to eliminate all typing. Typing basically allows people to put stuff in how you don't want it. So drop downs and pick boxes or date selectors. That's what I always use. So we have like a foreman app, and if they want to request a rental app, say, hey, I need a lift in a week, they put it in on the app, and they had a couple extra buttons to click, and people asked, hey, can we eliminate that? I'm like, sure, yeah, we'll take these steps out of the process. Well, then people start accidentally renting stuff too fast and calling things off too fast. So then I got to help say, all right, this is why we're when you say, hey, yeah, call off, and it says, are you sure? And you click OK, so that problem doesn't happen again. So
there's a reason Microsoft asks, are you sure?
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Are you sure you're sure? Oh shit.
Yeah, the closed-ended responses, right? That's the way to win in the Power App world or any kind of productivity. Some things have to be text-based, I get, but hopefully you can get rid of as much of that as possible. But phenomenal point, Zach. I think that if anyone listening, a big takeaway there is, target those guys that seem like they're the problem. I mean, they're not a problem for the company, though. A lot of these guys are the guys that have the most complicated high dollar projects. They're the tenured veterans, and someone in the shoes of trying to augment productivity in a role like Zach. I mean, like those should be the guys you target. They, like if I can win them, I've won the day. Like that's how I'm going to win. I mean, the easy targets are easy because of the reason that they probably don't really even have a great internal way of doing what they're doing. So the reason you've won them is because maybe they weren't really that good at their job. That might be an unfair way to say it, but maybe their process wasn't really that great.
Right.
So you won because you gave them something that was a little bit better than what they were doing. you're really going to win when you give something better to somebody who really had a great way of doing it already. That's the big win. So those are the people you should listen to. I know that they're a headache to your day to day, but
they are. I honestly too, another benefit of those types of people is typically they have people that they're bringing up under them too, that they're training, and I'll let them bring them in. I'm like, you know what, if you're struggling, why don't we bring so and so apprentice in that I know does your timesheets, right? Because that kid that's doing timesheets in 5 more years is probably going to be one of our up and coming foremen too, and I can start that training process earlier. In training too, I mean, we are missing a big part of that is we have training all the time. When we really started doing implementations and rolling some of these big changes out every week, I did it, and I did it to myself on purpose. And my Friday afternoons, typically the most quiet in our world, especially out in the field. I'd say, guess what, guys? We're making a schedule, and there's 8 of you that are coming in every Friday, and we'd have a scheduled training on. It was exactly what whatever the headache was at the time, or whatever new thing was out, and we'd sit down and we'd throw up on the TV. We had 3 TVs up. They would I'd make them put their screen up, and they're with their peers, showing what they're doing, and kind of walking through the process. And I'll let them teach each other too. So that's always a big part of it too.
So with the position that you have, which is sort of like it's like spot innovation, and it's really like, it's probably like the fun job that everybody's trying to get, honestly. But like, what do you feel some of the biggest challenges are to you? I know for me, I had trouble giving away the things that I created. So I only had so much I could create before I was maxed out. Like, what do you find really hits hard on trying to keep you moving forward?
It's always, it's not my full-time job. It's my side job. I was project manager, and then I was director of project controls, which basically opened the doors and let us bring in younger, college, the college path versus the trade path. And now I've shifted over to sales. And I know what's happening is I'm moving, around the company to, find more problems to help, make different processes help. But I'm really struggling with it now. It's exactly what you said is, that was my world, all these apps, and really it's more operational side and the field side. And I had to kind of leave it behind a little bit to keep moving on, to move to other things, in getting those people to, understand why you did things you did, and then, continue that training and getting, I think I've done a pretty good job of getting, I kind of identified a good person to be the trainer and be the point contact. That was a big gain for me. The phone stopped ringing for me. It started ringing to him, to answer those, how do I do this kind of questions, and getting him to start, rather than sitting back and waiting for those phone calls, to go out there. There's nothing better, I think, than, training those field guys in the field. It's great to bring them in the classroom to roll something out. If they're having trouble, if they're not getting their tracking done every week, if you see them as a repeat offender, go in their world, go see what their issues are. Maybe they are having cell phone issues, or, maybe there's one little thing that's in their world that you can, notice right away and kind of fix. So, yeah, it's definitely getting those other people, involved in it, and then just unraveling the spider webs that I've kind of created. They all have their purpose. And I've learned how to fix some of them now, and why they need fixed.
I'm sure you documented everything too.
Right? Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to try to pivot here. I'd be a little bit remiss as a new member of SMACNA if I didn't point out something that Poynter's doing for us here coming up in this year. Before we hit the official recording button, you and Jonathan were geeking about fabrication and equipment and stuff. So I think there's something big happening down at Poynter maybe in November.
Yeah, it was November 13th, right? Yeah, so we're hosting the first SMACNA fabrication conference. So I think registration's open, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so we were kind of following the footsteps. I attended the one last year. Where's that? McKinstry, right? Up in Seattle.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I attended that. A lot of the SMACNA members were there. We kind of knew what we were trying to do. So we kind of went, with eyes of, okay, how are they doing it? How can we do it? It'd be pretty hard to beat. They had a great program. They've got a lot of things to show. But I think our world's a little bit different, and that whole shop visit, we can spend, probably a full 8 hours in the shop going to all the different types of machines, what we do, our processes. So that's going to be the big thing on that conference. I think it's a full day is the tour, the shop tour, and not only just the shop, but I know I have a part showing our apps and that type of thing, and then our detailing side on how they're using Dynamo and how they're using Revit. Maybe we get those people from New York and show them all the Revit tools. So yeah, and we're pretty excited. It's really starting to get crunch time now. I was a little nervous because usually we throw on events like this, and I got a big part in helping all right, we got to pick hotels and all that kind of thing. We, through our peer group, we host a lot of things, and some of those things were going on. And it's like, well, it's because SMACNA's doing it. They've got a lot of that stuff covered. So
we got it covered. Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
Yeah. So we're excited. We're very excited for that event.
I hope we can have you on after that, because like one of the things that I think we sometimes miss is whoever hosts gets a bunch of feedback. Like they get tons of feedback, because I've talked to a lot of people and I'm like, why do you do this? It's a lot of money. This is a lot of expense. And is it just show off? And they're like, oh, hell no. Like we'll get feedback for the next million years with good ideas. So I hope we can have you back on for that. Can I ask, like you go to the shows, you just, like you're saying, you were just up there. How often do you take things away from them? How often do you really come back and like you have answers that you're going to implement coming out of a show?
I think I would say every single time. And I keep talking about our president, Joseph, but I mean, he's a great person to learn from. He always mentions one thing, and it comes from the one thing, the book. At least come back with some one thing that you can focus on that it might not be relevant exactly, but what's something that they're doing that we can take and manipulate our process to make us better. And we do that with our peer groups, because we do, through our peer group, we do two, I always call it the Bob's meetings, but twice a year we go around to, each contractor and, interview people, go through all their information, and do a SWOT analysis. Even doing those, and we have one of our peer groups, D. Kramer, up in Michigan. They're pretty close. It's not far. They're helping me develop our estimating software, so we're moving to Tabas. And it's even if I drive up there, it's like if I go up there, I got to take at least one thing, not alone, just that product, but what are they doing, in their shop or their delivery, or you can always find something to make yourself better. And that's one of the great things about peer companies. So,
well, I think that's one of the things that. That's one of the things that probably helped earn you the Innovator of the Year. Yes, you go visit all these things, these places and stuff, but you're obviously more than happy to share back in return.
Yeah, absolutely. I probably always get back 10 times more than what I give out. So there's always something. Someone thinks it's easy, but it's not easy to me. So that's always the key. So, yeah. And we do it locally too. I mean, we're always open. So, like Ermco, from the Nika side, they're literally a quarter of a mile down the road to us. Those guys can come over. We host, our local union. We host contractor school. We bring their people in. Everyone's welcome to come in. So that's one of the good things is we're not trying to hide anything. If someone's got an idea, hopefully they'll tell us what's going on too. And there's a lot of contractors across the country too. We spoke a little bit earlier about lasers, and Maztec's a great partner of ours in equipment. And we've always been on the edge of the shop equipment and buying stuff, and that's, he uses us as kind of a like a sales pitch. He'll come through and say, hey, here's this laser, or here's this corner machine or whatever. And we love having those people come through, because I'll see someone that came through the shop. I mean, McGuster Gill, they came through our shop 6 years ago. And then next thing I know, hey, when I'm at the Stratus, event at their facility, I can go up to Kevin. I already know him. Mm-hmm. So it's always a great thing to start that conversation.
Yeah, they are an innovative company, man. I went up to that same event you did, and I was like, wow, this is like this. Some of what they're doing is next level. Way to dig in,
Right.
way to dig in and hack around with software. I have a question on the equipment side. I was visiting a couple of sheet metal manufacturers, and one of the things they said that they were doing is starting to go see the automakers to look at their actual manufacturing lines. So you said you worked with auto manufacturers. Have you been able to steal anything from them in terms of, well, steal, creatively borrow? Doug would say pirate. Doug would say pirate.
Pirate,
Were you
yeah.
able to
I would
pirate
say
from the auto
repurpose.
manufacturers?
Repurpose.
I think I don't know of any in particular individual items. I think it's a more of a culture thing, and because we've been around them so much, we do pick up on small things that they do. There's other things that I see that maybe they take it too far. That not too far. It works for them. It doesn't work for us. The prime example would be Toyota and their Kanban system. It helps us keep in line on those projects. Implementing something like that for our business overall would be pretty difficult. But it is you could definitely, if you walk through our facility, you can see fingerprints of the automotive industry all over the place for sure.
I think I think that's something people don't look at. Like most of the stuff that I learned was kind of learned from GE and from United Refining, and from like, you go look at these companies that are dialed into doing just one thing. And it's like, what can I take from you?
Yeah. And it's always humbling too, walking into,
oh jeez.
It's I've been to the one of the Fort Wayne, Indiana. They produce probably 60-70% of the GM trucks, the 150 series, or another one, Ford down in Kentucky. They do the Super Duties and above, and we've done all their expansions. And you walk through those facilities, and it's just amazing how all those parts and pieces come back together to make a finished product. And it's cool too to say you're a part of that. It's very, very interesting.
Do they track things in pounds of sheet metal, and how do you guys compare?
I do have a story. It was prior to me up at Fort Wayne. They do track how many trucks and how much revenue is per minute, because we shut their facility down one time. And they came back and said, "Hey, this is how much you're costing us." And we've heard that story several times. But that is too. They do track things. Yeah, every single line has they have a headset that says where they're at, if they're green, yellow, or red. Everyone knows their metrics. Every single person on the floor knows how many parts or pieces they're supposed to get out. And it's pretty. There's a lot of cool places. I think in when I was in Dallas, they make the Yukon. They had us go look at. We're down there with Barton Mallow from Michigan. They do a lot of those facilities, and they're doubling the body shop down there. They ran out of real estate essentially now, but they had a little remodel they wanted to do. It's incredible. Some of the while the production's going on, they're like, "Hey, we want you to crawl through here and go up down this conveyor." You see the doors coming in on the conveyors, and they go up. And they're like, "Yeah, there's a walkway. I want you guys to go back through there, and there's this thing back there." So it's always interesting seeing some of their processes.
It's very cool.
So it sounds like you're using a lot of like off the shelf products for artful use, or just kind of trying to figure out something with them. What do you got some giveaway hack tools for people listening? Because every time I meet somebody like you, I think I met when I was talking to Brad the last time, he gave me like 3 of them. So anything that pops to mind that you use all the time that seems like a strange little niche tool?
Maybe not a tool, but maybe like a starting process is, most of the stuff that we're doing, we're just replacing. We're taking old school triplicate forms. I use a PO as an example. And I've learned, take that form, and those are your fields, right? And whatever I'm dealing with in data, it's every single box is just a data field. So that becomes your column, right? And start from there and start recognizing that. But yeah, YouTube also it's the great equalizer in teaching anything. And don't be afraid to get in there and mess things up too, because it's until you start using it, you're not gonna mess anything up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got to say, I wish YouTube keeps adding more advertisements, and it's like I literally finally paid for a learning platform, because I'm like, you know what, I could just
I think I've heard they're testing that too on several users. They're just seeing how many ads you'll actually tolerate before you give up.
Apparently, I'm on that list.
They take the listeners by how long they listen, Jonathan, and then they apply the algorithm to see what you're going to do.
Yeah, skip the survey. Always skip the survey.
How much pain will you tolerate, Jonathan?
They're definitely measuring it. There's no doubt about that.
So you're over in sales now and in business development style. So what are you attempting to innovate there?
So obviously, the fabrication side, our whole database, we have that database. We use it in Revit. It runs our fabrication side. So I've got that. I don't have to go build the fitting. I just got to put the labor table to them, and create something that can help lead. So we're not walking into a project. There's so much data. Pikey he's the master of it.
No, you can't say that. I'm going to strike that from the
podcast. He's a great listen. he tells you everything, but I don't know if I'd ever get to Pikey's level, but finding that happy medium. So you can do things on the buyout side of, walking into a kickoff meeting, turning it over to operations. Hey, look, this is what you got. You got so many pounds of this. Look at the liner. The software we use now, we can't visually show those takeoffs. We probably could if we really tried, but it doesn't make sense all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But being able just to pull up that model, that MAJ, and just say, all right, let's look at the line duct. Here you go. Here's where the line duct is, or here's where paint grip's at. This is where we took it off. All these, all the metadata that's built into it. It's just it's awesome.
Can I ask a question that it has popped up a few times, and I don't know how to answer it, but why wouldn't you just go right to Revit or whatever your design software is? Why stick with like an Est or something like that?
So the Revit side obviously takes a certain person to operate, and I know there's people out there that use it. I don't know if it's the right solution for us. It could be definitely for others. The amount that we do, I know. So I'm on the commercial side. We're generating 35 bids a week, roughly 8 or 9 million. It doesn't to get those people up and running on that platform versus basically what I'm teaching. Hey, let's use design line. Okay. Don't worry about elevations. If you're going to cross, drop in a couple offsets. Just make sure you don't cross your design line. Keep it very low level. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's been the process we're taking.
Okay, I think I knew that was the answer. Like the design line, you're not concerned with clashes and elevations, and you're just trying to get it drawn out. Okay.
Yep.
I like to ask that question because, to bring it back to Pikey, like one of the things we like to talk about is the fact that he designs a model. It's like, well, you could do that in Revit too. So it's always nice to just kind of ask people why not just take that next step.
Yeah, another big thing too. It's regionally is I don't get Revit models on, it'd be great if someone gave me a Revit model and I can convert it. I'd do that all day long.
Even if you do that though, you're still going back in and you're doing a ton of tweaking. And from the construction side, we've talked about earlier, Jonathan, we talked about in a meeting we had today, is like most of that time you're just throwing all that stuff out anyway.
Right.
Yeah. I did I spent like the last year or so getting a workaround for design line. So like the ITM has a future, like you can draw without design line and like you had design line. It's that smart. So it was interesting when you said you were going back to Est, because I'm like, you know what? I think everybody like skipped out on ITM too early. And now, we can do a whole lot of stuff with that. There's other engines that can be used. Andy, the guy who came up with all that, we've had him on the show, has clouded the databases so that you can pull it down from the cloud now, all of those individual parameters. You don't have to pull down all the rest of the stuff, so it's like, it's been really interesting. I was not a sheet metal guy, but I had to build some sheet metal. I had to build a sheet metal app, and I got to learn a lot about connector logic and the rest of it, and all of the seams and all of this, all of the SMACNA rules. And I was surprised how many of them, like trying to automate them in Revit was like a slog. It was just so difficult. And then you're like in ITM or in Est or in fabrication, it's like really easy in there. It's like, how did we diverge?
Yeah. And so on the database front, I lived it twice because we had when I was at my old company, we had TSI. Before it switched over.
Yeah.
And when I know when I came here, I was like, we should get TSI, because actually we were on Est, and I actually sold a job. It was a barracks, an army barracks. I sold a job and then I left. So I was gone the next, it was in a month. So I actually followed up, and the job did good. So that was the good thing. But if you look at the database, really to me, especially on the sheet metal side, is you want to develop it backwards. You want that fab guy to develop your parts, develop your service, do that part, then start working with CAD to do your services or detailing VDC, do that side. And then once those guys get it all locked in, then it's easy for me, because now I have the services. I can go grab, I can drop stuff I don't need. I can just, isolate the items I need and then apply labor tables, and I'm good to go. So that's the step we're at right now.
Dude, talk to somebody from Australia, because they all got together as a group, and their version of SMACNA, they distribute a duct database, like a sheet metal database for everybody. So like one shop versus the other shop versus the other shop. Like, it's talking to somebody from Autodesk Summit, and hopefully we have him on the show soon. He's like, oh yeah, we all use the same thing. And I'm like, you're kidding me.
That's crazy. We've lived through it too, buying new machines and stuff, having to go through and they've got to edit some kind of allowance on the seam. We've got a new coil line that it takes, the V notch is basically minimal now. I know we're getting into the nitty gritty of stuff, but
that's why we have the show.
That's why we have the
show. On the estimating side, I don't really care, but it's super important on the cam side. So
I'm glad that's where your focus is, because I do think in the MEP world, like the estimating side is kind of the new frontier for a lot of this stuff. I think it's been untouched. I think it's way behind. And it's for a lot of those reasons that it wasn't looked at as there wasn't the need for the refined solution like there was in design and stuff like that. And I think that excuse is the reason why it kind of stayed laggard for so long. But now when you look at it, you're looking at all of the advancements, kind of like past acquisition and all the things that you're doing project management wise. And you still have this whole thing over here, this estimating situation that is like, oh my God, they're still doing that. Like, what do you like? I think it is the new frontier. Software companies out there, if you're, there's been no real innovation in MEP estimating, and I couldn't even tell you how long. So it's cool. It's cool that that's your focus.
Jeff works for a company now that shows that it hasn't been a ton done on the GC and CM side either, right? I mean, it's
estimating pre-construction in general is like I think it's the next frontier for the next 5 years. I mean, I've said that a couple times, and it's interesting that the estimating systems themselves are so far behind. But the question I wanted to ask you, Zach, is that you guys don't do a ton of design build work, right? You're plan and spec work, and it's interesting because I think the changeover from that is I think that's one of the reasons some of the tools are still good. Plan and spec hasn't changed much.
Exactly,
I think as you see more types, like you were kind of talking about one of the facilities that like they ran out of real estate, like planning how you do and expand into the future on things like that. I'm wondering how you see, if you see plan and spec continuing in perpetuity, or if you start to see that shift.
Yeah, I think, and I have when I was in Alaska, we had more design build. It wasn't full on. We didn't have engineers on staff. However, we made teams. So, I was on this GC's team, and we would go after a bid, and we had the engineer was another basically subcontractor. We are seeing a lot more design assist. And down to, we have a large pharmaceutical company here that we work with a ton, and they're expanding like crazy, and Jacobs Engineering cannot keep up. So they're using us. So it's not a full on, design build, but they know that, we know their systems, we know their parameters. So we basically lease a detailer to draw it how we're going to draw it. The engineers overseeing it. It becomes a job essentially for us. They still do the bid, but it's definitely in our world. It's changing a little bit, especially some of these larger. In the area, we have so many mega projects that cannot be plan and spec. They've got to be unique formats and contract structure. Our big project in Kentucky, we're spending millions a week and we just can't finance that. But people like Ford and GM, we have Intel in too. They're coming up with new contract structures to to alleviate that, and it's more of a budget based process. You're developing a base budget, you're working towards that, and as the design comes along, you just keep following up with that budget. And we're submitting invoices every week, and then at the month we kind of do a reconciliation and get it back up to what it was. But yeah, $200 million sheet metal project, that's a lot of risk there, and there's not a lot of people that will take that, and the owner needs that building too. So it's been a good contract model, I would say, of, hey, you guys are going to be guaranteed X, Y, Z. We need our building. We know you guys are going to get it done, and help us design it. So I see a lot of the bigger ones going that way for sure.
It seems like too, like I was going to ask Trent too, like, I mean, it's a regional thing, right? Even though you're only like 4 hours away from where I was, like in Chicago, like, I mean, it starts in the coast, right? It kind of comes into like the Chicago area and dissipates out. But when you start getting those bigger projects, that contract type changes.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, so we have Amazon, right? Currently we have Ford, GM, Amazon, LG, all these battery plants. There's Intel's coming in. We probably aren't going to touch that over in Columbus, Ohio, but that job in particular, it's affecting jobs. There's a correctional facility, just a prison that's going near Chicago that we were looking at, and they're concerned about, hey, how are you covering labor costs, and how are your manpower, and what can we do to restructure what we traditionally do in order to make sure our project gets done and doesn't get affected by this.
Dude, that's the crazy part right now, is that you're dealing with that at that level. And then, I do sit at that GC level right now, and we're seeing so many of these mega projects that even the big dogs can't carry all of them. Right. The joint venture world is like hotcakes. The number of them that have to share that risk across all of them to produce this, I'm amazed. And it's Ohio, Kentucky. Like, you're just like, man, and you just said $200 million in sheet metal.
That's a lot of tin.
That's a lot of tin.
That's a lot of tin. We are a mature audience. That is a shitload of tin.
That's a lot of tin. The sheet metal world, that is a ton of volume. 2 million is a lot.
No air handlers, no equipment. Basically our duct accessories. Nothing that moves water, essentially, because all that stuff is, and the lead times on top of it, they've already pre-purchased those. Those are designed. They're just, hey, give me the biggest air handler you guys can make, and we'll design around it. Is kind of the process some of these places are taking. So
yeah,
it's
those up and down budgets. Geez, man, that's wild.
When those companies could handle it, they did it, but the contractor is kind of the last line of defense. We're just seeing now that a lot of these companies can't handle their own britches anymore, and they're pushing it all out. The contractor is basically becoming a jack of all trades, pun intended, I guess. But they're like the contractors having to learn all these secondary and tertiary parts to the project, because your traditional entities just can't handle their own scope anymore. So they're like, well,
yeah. You're having sizable contractors that would typically look at this kind of work, be like, yeah, no, we can't man it. We don't have the, so the labor market and all that stuff is going to be crazy, I think, for a while.
It's going to get worse. It's going to be crazy.
You want me to build this $4 billion hospital and this $10 billion microchip plant at the same time?
We do.
And we want it yesterday.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's made us look at things. We traditionally are sub tier, so we work for mechanical contractors that work for GCs. So we're down the chain, and it's making us look at, hey, what are areas that we could isolate and subcontract out, right? Especially the things that aren't immediately in our backyard. And even we've been looking at it locally too. If, hey, we've got this one giant job. What can we take and section off and use basically our competitors to help do that job. They wouldn't be in the game to begin with because it's too big for them to do. Let us get that isolated, and you guys can do a smaller project within that larger project. So
that's an interesting one. I'd probably get myself in trouble. Sorry, Travis and Zach, for asking this one, but is that the beginning, just like we're seeing at the GC level, is that the beginning of sort of the some sort of conglomerate, some sort of consolidation, because you can't do all that work, right? And there's the argument: is it become one company, or does it stay separate companies that become like cohorts almost? So I'd like it to, I mean, I don't know. I like the cohort thing actually, because you can say like, hey, I work in these 4 cohorts, and like you guys can pick the ones you like in different areas, and that makes everybody good to go, and it still keeps competition, and it keeps kind of, I don't know, separation of church and state. But it's an interesting thing, because that has not happened in other industries. Jonathan, you and I've talked about this a lot. Like, some of the reason for enterprise in other industries is consolidation.
It's going to change the way business happens. I mean, I have my opinions on. I think it's innovating. You know, we're talking about innovation. They're
innovative business models, right?
I think you're going to see more and more, maybe not on the larger scale, but you're going to see more and more smaller tier projects and things go away from. I think that, owners are going to learn, what's the value in a CM? What's the value in a general contractor? What's the value? I mean, where do we eliminate first? We talk about elimination and automation. I mean, you're not going to eliminate the trade. I mean, you're not going to get rid of the person that's putting the work in. So I think you're seeing these sub-tier contractors step up and take on larger roles in the project. And I think it's probably going to end up being to the slight demise of the CM and general contractors. It's not a popular thing to say, but
no, but I went to the other side, right, Trent, and watched this, and I think, I honestly actually think that the table's going to get a little bit rounder and a little bit flatter, because I honestly don't think, like, as many of those MEPs as I've gone to that are they're the top tiers. You ask them some of the harder questions about like managing some of this shit, and they're like, no, I don't ever want to do. And so it's like,
but they're learning.
So this tier bullshit we have, where it's, I mean, in all honesty, like, you have a weirdness of owner, architect, engineer, general contractor, or CM. I don't care where you put them. And then trades, like, we've got this shit flows downhill mentality and flow. And it's like, wait, how about we just turn this into a table where everybo's around it, and then we're actually leaning on each other?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
That's the model I think Trent will change. Yeah. Do I think it'll change the scopes? And yeah, I don't think you're wrong there.
Don't let the tier like kind of paint a false picture of what's really happening. I mean, like Zach, Poynter, I mean, even in the mechanical world in central Indiana, like Poynter would work subcontract to one of the piping contractors, just because that scope generally went to a piping contractor, but there's no piping contractor in central Indiana that's going to do ductwork too, because they're not going to try and compete with these people that have mastered it. So you have companies like Poynter who are what you use the quote bottom tier. They're not a bottom tier contractor by any means. I mean, these
are foundational contractor.
Yeah, they're
the CM that's in charge of all of them. So they're, I mean,
I like your table. I like your round table analogy though. So
yeah.
Knights of the construction round table.
Right.
we see it too. There's a lot of projects that, we, because of our size, we're able to bond more than a lot of our typical customers, and sometimes those scopes end up getting broken out. We never want to. Trent's previous company or other companies, the same size, we never want to, offend them, because that's 80% of our business. But at the same time, we don't want to lose the job, because, we can handle that job and we can take it on. So we have to, especially in the field, our field guys, they hear it all the time, because we do. We like that, innovation and professionalism. Those are some of our key words. And here, we're down here with the, say contractually, we're, same as an insulator, essentially. So, within the GCs, they want us to, step up our game. They want us to be part of the upper tier. So it's always a balancing act. We got to show, that we care, and we do. That's one of the things that sets us apart and makes us, unique, is that we do, and we have that, just, get it done mentality. And it helps us out for sure.
I mean, I would also point out not all CMs are created equal. Like there's CMs that are basically business development guys, and then there's CMs where you like look at them and like, I don't want your job. I don't want your job at all. I'm glad you exist. You just stay right there and take all those errors to the face while I
You don't even have
do
to
my
want
install.
them to exist, though, John. I'm just saying the natural progression.
Oh yeah, no, natural progression. You're right.
Look, I'm
You're
not
right.
saying you want their job. I'm saying customers might tell you have their job. I'm not trying to, I like the equal round table thing, but I think that the seats at the table could shrink on some projects. That's all.
I don't know about you, man, but sitting down at the round table for coordination, it's whoever is the best. It doesn't matter if you're the bottom tier, the top tier, the middle tier, whoever's the best is taking over that meeting. And if they don't, then whoever is running it's an idiot. Like the good CMs will walk in there, figure out who's the best, and they'll be like, you
Jeff
can
Miller.
do all this for us. Yes.
Jeff Miller. Jeff Miller has made.
Yeah.
He's a local. He's at HFI here locally, and I mean that's a huge thing that he provides. When they know they have HFI and they can have Jeff Miller on the job, he's going to run that thing and he's going to do a great job. He's got everyone's best interest at heart. He, levels the playing field, and it's just, he's really good at doing that.
And that's what I hope more people understand about being the best of the job is like, it's not like we're trying to screw each other over or anything. I mean, I know we have a highly competitive industry sometimes, but the people that are really good at their job, they do want everyone to win.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
We had a construction manager walks in at a coordination meeting and says, we want everybody to share the pain. And everybody was like laughing. We're like, we don't want any pain at all. Okay. So you can stand outside with the share the pain idea. We will try to eliminate the pain inside this room. It is. And Jeff's a good example. I've met a bunch of people that are sort of that. They're the lead and they're the lead wherever they go. And it doesn't matter who they're working for. And they're they make everybody's life better because they don't share the pain. They just try to eliminate it.
Yep.
So I have you were talking about innovations in estimating, and I think you're going, are you going out to the summit we just had a bonus episode about it. The summit out in Colorado for Stratus and all that.
I'm not. So we started on the Stratus path. I still think it's a great product, but at the time it just did not fit us. And unfortunately, Kevin Gill and McGuster Gill, they really drove it. I walked away from that event saying, we are not ready for this at our size. It's so hard to roll something out that would be that game changing. Because to me, you have to go all in on that. You can't run your shop, on the old system and on Stratus. Right. You probably could. It's just not our style. It's more of, hey, this is how things are going to be. And I think it's that process is great. We weren't part of, we weren't ready for it.
I can totally understand that. What I was actually going to say is Melvin Newman, who we've had on the show, who runs Patabid, is probably the most innovative person looking at estimating that I've ever met. He's using AI for estimating on the electrical side. He was using it way before the large language models came out. And just, if you get a chance, he's going to be there. That's why I was like, if you're going to be there, you need to go talk to him since you're implementing EST at the same time, because it's like a different mentality. But like, I think you did the conversation. So since you're not going there, just go on LinkedIn and stalk Melvin Newman and just like be like, hey, explain to me what you're up to.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I went to advancing prefabrication. The one it was right before COVID hit. So, and we developed a whole prefab side with the modular construction and everything. And we had a little presentation on how because we made an expansion. We had a 50,000 square foot expansion. We needed it anyway for the ducks, but we were going into that market, and they wanted us to present. You just got out of building this. How did you go about that and planning? And we did it. That was just why we were going. But that was one of the best conferences I've been to, because just seeing some of the, us in electrical, we're completely different. We always tell them, hey, why don't you go get your bender and move around, because we got pretty big stuff coming through. but they will destroy us all day long on, the prefab side and kitting and building those carts and that type of thing. Seeing how they take something and figuring out a way to make it ours, it's always good to see. So yeah, I always like to look at electricians, because something we'll look at mechanicals because we're kind of similar, but electrical it's like a whole new window to open.
You're looking at Ermco too. That's kind of, I mean, they're not exactly like, you know, mom and pop shop down the
street. They're pretty big as well. Yeah.
Well, we are getting near that time. I know the boys are going to keep asking you questions, but if and we've kind of made this a kind of memorial of each of the MEP innovators is for the MEP innovator of the year next year who gets to take your prize. What problem would you like them to solve for you? Besides estimating, we know that's a big one.
Yeah. I'd say shop scheduling. If someone can present a method of, you know, how they schedule, and I know there's a lot of different solutions out there, but you know, really show that how does the field turn in that order and that order gets delivered, you know, without, you know, how does that one foreman get there? Seeing a presentation on that would be just fantastic. And I know I'm kind of leading the blind there a little bit. I know Augusta Gill is close to that. They're probably one of the best, and Doug's as well. You know, DSI, they use it too. But just seeing that whole process and seeing different, maybe out of the box method, and using that to, and I'm an analytics guy. You know, my end goal is always, hey, we got so many pounds delivering over the next 3 months. How many guys do we need on this piece of equipment? Right. That's the end. That's the real thing. That's always what I'm shooting for. So.
There you go. I mean, I think he's the first one to actually give us like a true, you had that ready. Like,
go attack that right now and you'll be innovator of the year.
Get on it, people. That's if you want innovator of the year, there you
go. That's it. You got to go do it.
Yep. So I'm cheating a little bit though. I got to listen to 2 of them before I got to do mine. So
yeah, there you go, Travis. Next year we're gonna have to switch the order up.
Right.
There you go.
It's pirating.
It's not stealing, it's pirating. Yes, that's right.
That's right.
You did your homework, right?
You did your homework.
You went to YouTube ahead of time.
That's it. Smack that first next year, so we don't have this problem.
Yep.
There were no rules. He was allowed to.
Yep.
Rules. We have no rules. Well, Zach, man, it was awesome to have you on the show. Thanks so much for stopping in. Congratulations on Innovator of the Year. Hope to see you at MEP Innovation, so maybe you can hand off the crown or the whatever trophy it is.
Whatever Jonathan makes this time.
Who knows?
Yeah. No, it's been great.
Or Milwaukee or whoever gets tasked with it.
That's awesome.
Oh, wait. Check it out, man. You want to see what yours, this was an actual attempt to pour that out of brass that failed. Failed bad. Look at how bad that fail is. I failed 2 or 3 times before we're like, no, Milwaukee will make it.
That's part of the innovation, though. You have to fail to get to the next level.
Yep.
You have to fail, and what? You threw that in the snow, didn't you? And then
I threw it in the backyard, and Sean's like, "Do you have it?" And I'm like, no, because my backyard's an acre, and I can throw really hard.
Evidently, when it's hot, I can throw it really far into the snow. So, but he did find it, so it is there now. Well, thanks a lot, Zach, for stopping by. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. This has been episode 67. More innovative than duct tape. And we're gone.
Cool.
Right on, man.
Hey, that was great.